Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time.
It's great to be here.
Today, we are tackling something that, well, I think every single person listening has felt at some point. It usually hits at about 3 a.m. on a Sunday night, when you're just staring at the ceiling.
Oh, I know that feeling. The pre-Monday dread.
Exactly. And it's this specific, almost desperate fantasy. The idea that if you just buy the right set of acrylic drawer organizers for your desk.
Or if you finally start waking up at 5:30 a.m. to go for a run.
Yes. Or if you just eat enough quinoa and perfect your skincare routine, you will suddenly, somehow, molt. You'll shed your old, tired, anxious skin and become a new you.
The new me.
The new me. The employable, happy, productive version of yourself who doesn't lie awake wondering what it's all for. It's a really seductive idea.
I mean, it's basically the engine of the entire consumer economy, right? That promise of transformation.
It really is.
Yeah.
But today, we are going to take a very, very hard look at that fantasy. We're doing a deep dive into the novel The New Me by Halle Butler.
And I think we need to set the stage here immediately because this book, it's tricky. If you just look it up online, you'll see it categorized as a sad girl novel or maybe a dark comedy.
And it is both of those things. It is incredibly funny in a really painful, cringing sort of way.
It is. But for our purposes here on this channel, we are treating this book as a piece of systems analysis.
Right. This is the book review. We aren't here to critique the plot or the prose style, even though the prose is, razor sharp. We are here to look at the machinery behind the story. The book follows Millie, a 30-year-old temp worker who is kind of drifting through the gig economy in Chicago. And our mission today is to answer a really core question. How do these systems of temporary employment and performative professionalism actually dismantle a person's identity?
It's all about the trap. I think we so often look at a person who is flailing in the job market, someone like Millie, and the first question we ask is, what's wrong with them? Why can't they just get it together?
Yeah, we pathologize the individual.
Exactly. But what Halle Butler is doing here is so much more interesting. She's flipping the question. She's asking, what is the environment doing to manufacture this person's failure? We want to understand how the actual structure of her life creates the conditions for the failure that she then, of course, blames herself for.
Okay, so let's introduce the lab rat in this experiment, so to speak.
Yeah.
We have Millie. She's 30, she's educated, but she's just completely adrift.
She's stuck.
She is.
Sure.
And her current assignment is a temp gig as a reception assistant at a very high-end, very chic designer furniture showroom.
A showroom which is, for all intents and purposes, the main antagonist of the book.
Oh, 100%. The way it's described.
Yeah.
It's windowless in the back. It's all beige and quiet.
Yeah.
And it's filled with what Butler calls a flimsy presentation of friendliness.
That phrase is perfect. You can just feel it.
You can. You have these ridiculously expensive chrome tables and coworkers who are constantly performing busyness while actually doing very, very little. It's like a purgatory made of beige carpet.
And that context is so crucial to what we're talking about. Halle Butler, who's a National Book Foundation 5 under 35 honoree, she's writing specifically about the alienation of the modern office.
But not the old school office.
Yeah, not the Mad Men office where you work for 40 years, you hate your boss, but you get a pension and a gold watch at the end. She's writing about the jigification of white-collar work, the precarity, the constant gnawing feeling that you are disposable.
Jigification is such a good term for it. We hear it all the time with, like, Uber drivers or delivery people. But putting it inside an office setting like this, it feels so much more insidious. It's sitting at a desk but having absolutely no roots.
Exactly. It's the psychological state of having no future built into the job. So the central thesis we're exploring today is that the new me shows how these modern labor systems quietly, almost invisibly, dismantle a person's selfhood. And at the same time, they frame any structural failure as a personal character flaw.
So Millie thinks she's a disaster.
She thinks she's a toad, to use her own word for it. She's disgusting. She's a failure. But the book is suggesting she's just a product of her environment. It's like if you put a plant in a dark closet with no water and it wilts, you don't blame the plant.
You blame the closet.
You blame the closet. You blame the condition.
Okay, so let's unpack those conditions. The first major insight we get from the source material is this idea of precarity as a panopticon.
Right, a panopticon. That's a great way to put it.
For any listeners who might not be familiar with that term, especially in this context, can you break that down a bit?
Sure. So the panopticon was originally a design for a prison by Jeremy Bentham. The idea was a central tower where a single guard could watch all the prisoners in their cells around the tower.
But the prisoners can't see the guard.
That's the key. They never know when they're being watched, so they have to assume they are always being watched. And that forces them to police their own behavior constantly.
Okay, so how does that apply to the modern temp worker?
Well, it's Millie's entire existence. She's technically employed, right? She has a job, but she is permanently auditioning. She is never safe. She can be dismissed at any moment for any reason or for no reason at all. She is always being watched for her performance.
And there's this terrifying detail in the book that illustrates this perfectly.
Yeah.
Karen, the supervisor, who is just this perfect representation of petty middle management authority, she keeps Millie late one night.
For no real reason.
No reason at all. Just so she can snoop through Millie's internet search history on her work computer.
It's so chilling. And what makes that scene so insightful is what Karen finds. Or maybe what she's looking for versus what's actually there.
Because there's nothing scandalous, is there? Millie's search history is actually kind of sad. It's benign.
She's looking up recipes, organizational tips, how to organize your closet, healthy dinner ideas. She's searching for ways to get her life together. She is actively trying to be good. She's trying to become that new me.
But Karen doesn't care about the content.
Not at all. It's the act of surveillance itself. She's being watched not for her output, not for her productivity, but for her total compliance. Karen wants to know if Millie is submitting to the role of the good worker, even inside her own brain during her downtime.
And this leads directly to what I think is the most stressful scene in the book, what you call the shredding trap.
This scene gave me so much anxiety just reading it. It really felt like a nightmare sequence from a thriller.
Walk us through the shredder. What happens?
So this is pivotal for understanding how the system works. Karen wheels a shredder over to Millie's desk and gives her this huge, messy stack of papers. Now, notice the composition of the stack. It's complete chaos.
Right.
Some of it is genuinely sensitive financial documents, social security numbers, bank details, things that absolutely should be shredded for security reasons.
But then it's mixed in with junk.
Total junk. Junk mail flyers, old memos, pizza coupons, useless paper. And Karen frames it as just busy work.
She says something like, take your time, no rush. It's so casual, it's presented as almost a favor. Here, I know you're not busy, so here's something to occupy your time.
But it's a trap, 100%. It's a test. Millie, being a logical person, looks at this pile of work and sees it for exactly what it is, meaningless. It is labor for the sake of performing labor.
And why am I shredding a pizza flyer?
Exactly. It makes no sense. So what does she do? She delays. She puts it off. She shreds a little bit here and there, but she hesitates. Her rational brain rejects the sheer absurdity of the task. So she kind of creates a hierarchy in her head, I'll shred the important stuff later when I have a proper block of time.
And that hesitation, that failure to immediately perform the meaningless task, that's what Karen uses as the justification to fire her.
Precisely. It's so insidious because if Millie had just, mindlessly shredded the entire pile in 5 minutes, she would have just been given more busy work. She would have passed the test. But because she hesitated, because her brain recognized the absurdity, she was labeled untrustworthy.
The system creates these little traps to justify the expendability of the worker. Millie isn't fired because she can't answer the phone or greet a client. She's fired because she failed a test of total, unquestioning submission.
She failed to pretend that shredding the flyer mattered.
That's the key.
That is the absolute key. In this kind of economy, you aren't really being paid for the work itself. You are being paid for the performance of belief in the work. You have to act like shredding that pizza flyer is the most important thing in the world at that moment. And Millie couldn't suspend her disbelief, so she had to go.
It's a demand for fealty to the nonsense of the job.
It is. Which brings us right to the second core insight. This idea of professionalism as purely aesthetic performance. Because it's not like everyone else in the office is a productivity machine, right? Millie is surrounded by people who are also barely working.
Oh, absolutely not. The book is brutal about this. You have the other coworkers, Karen, Amanda, Patty. They spend huge chunks of their day just talking. They discuss their dogs, their pedometers, their personal drama.
There's that one scene where they have a 20-minute debate about the merits of a chrome coffee table versus a wooden one. They are not working in the productive sense any more than Millie is. Probably less.
But they're considered good workers. They're the permanent staff. They're safe. They aren't getting fired. So what's the difference?
The difference is they fit the aesthetic, they wear the right J. Crew vests, they have the right amount of pep in their voice, they participate in all the little social rituals of the office, they laugh at the right times, they ask about your weekend.
And Millie doesn't.
Millie doesn't. She's described as wearing this toad-like duffel coat. She smells a little bit like her apartment, which has this recurring bad odor we should talk about. She doesn't perform the bubbliness that's required of a receptionist.
So professionalism in this environment has nothing to do with competence. Millie can answer a phone perfectly well. It's all about class signaling.
It is entirely about class signaling and personality compliance. The source text is so good at this. It contrasts Millie's internal monologue, which is sharp and critical and really intelligent, with her complete inability to perform what Butler calls the lotioned, soft, gummy hand gestures of the other women.
Oh, that description. Lotioned, soft, gummy. It's so specific and so repulsive.
It is, because it highlights how Millie sees herself in comparison. She feels hard and dry and rough next to these smooth, integrated people. She feels like a foreign object. She's rejected like a transplanted organ that the body doesn't recognize, not because the organ doesn't work, but because it doesn't match the surrounding tissue.
And what does Millie do when she feels this rejection? Does she rebel? Does she, burn the place down?
No, she does the opposite. She tries to optimize herself.
And this is insight number 3, and honestly, this is the part of the book that really hurt to read. Self-improvement as a substitute for stability.
This is the tragic heart of the whole story. When the system starts crushing Millie, she doesn't question the system. She turns all of that critical energy inward. She thinks, if I just buy the right things, if I act the right way, they will let me stay.
The Instacart scene. This just killed me. She gets this generic email from HR that she misinterprets as a permanent job offer, and she enters this manic, aspirational state.
And what does she do?
She orders expensive candles. She orders quinoa. She orders specialized, eco-friendly cleaning products. She's spending money that she absolutely does not have.
She's buying a costume for a life she can't afford. She genuinely believes that if she consumes the right artifacts of a successful professional, the expensive candle, the healthy grain, she will somehow absorb their properties and become that person.
It's almost like a cargo cult. If I eat the quinoa, I become the manager.
It is exactly magical thinking. It's the core religion of capitalism. And then you see it again with the yoga class. She tries to go to a yoga studio. She actually gets herself there. She has this whole fantasy of a new routine where she's calm and centered and flexible.
But look at the timing of it. She tries to start this new, expensive routine before she has the stability to actually support it. She spends the money on the class before she even has the paycheck.
Right, and that's the trap. The system sells the solution. Buy more stuff, groom yourself better, be more zen to the very anxiety that the system itself creates. Millie believes that if she can just become the new me, the system will finally accept her.
But the system doesn't care about her yoga practice.
The system cares about whether she's cheaper than an unpaid intern.
Which, spoiler alert, she is not. We see Karen actively plotting to replace Millie with an intern, explicitly to save money on the budget. Millie's having this profound existential crisis, and Karen is just looking at a spreadsheet.
That's the brutal asymmetry of it all. Millie is playing a game of moral improvement, and the company is playing a game of cost-cutting. Millie thinks her employment is a referendum on her value as a human being. The company thinks her employment is a line item that can be deleted without a second thought.
I want to talk about the emotional toll of all this.
Yeah.
Because Millie isn't just, a bit quirky. She is deeply unwell. She's depressed. She drinks too much. But looking at it through this lens, her state seems like a completely rational response to her situation.
And that's our insight number 4. Emotional exhaustion as a rational response. I mean, look at her obsession with the TV show Forensic Files. She watches it constantly. It's her pacifier.
Why Forensic Files specifically? Is it just that she's morbid?
I don't think so. Think about the structure of a show like that. A crime happens. Investigators find evidence. The science points to a suspect. The bad guy is caught and justice is served. It's a perfect narrative of clear cause and effect. It's linear and it's fair.
Okay, I see where you're going. And Millie's life has absolutely zero cause and effect.
None whatsoever. She works hard, she gets fired, she tries to be nice, she gets ignored, she fails to shred a pizza coupon, she gets fired. The world makes no sense. The TV show provides the narrative structure and the sense of justice that her actual life completely lacks. It's a numbing agent against the chaos. It's the only place she sees a problem actually getting solved in a logical way.
And then there's the smell. We have to talk about the smell in her apartment.
The smell is practically a character in its own right.
It really is. Her neighbors are complaining about it. She is cleaning compulsively. She's pouring bleach down the drains. She's scrubbing everything. But the smell remains.
Because it represents the structural rot. You can clean the surface all you want, just like Millie tries to clean up her appearance for work. But if the pipes deep inside the walls are rotting, the smell is going to come back. Her life is stagnating. She is rotting in that apartment because she has no forward momentum. And the smell is the physical manifestation of her economic immobility. You can't Febreze your way out of poverty.
And it's so circular, because the smell is what makes her socially unacceptable. But the smell is caused by the cheap, run-down apartment she can't afford to leave because she's socially unacceptable at work and can't get a permanent job.
It's a perfect, vicious feedback loop.
So let's zoom out a bit and look at the actual systems mapping here. Who are the actors in this system? We've talked a lot about Karen.
Karen is fascinating because she isn't the CEO. She's not the big boss. She's middle management. She's a gatekeeper. And she holds on to her tiny shred of power by punching down.
Why, though? Why is she so hostile to Millie?
The book implies that Karen resents Millie because Millie represents the abyss. Millie is what happens if you fall off the corporate ladder. So Karen has to push her away, has to find fault with her, to reassure herself that she is safe, that she belongs.
It's driven by fear. Karen looks at Millie and sees her own potential obsolescence. It's not that she hates Millie as a person. She hates what Millie represents about the precarity they both face.
Exactly. And then you have the temp agency, the recruiters, Julia and Amanda. They send these emails that are just dripping with fake enthusiasm. I'm so excited for you. Be in touch.
God, those emails, that performative cheerfulness. Happy Monday. It's almost worse than just being fired directly.
It is, because it's a facade. And you notice, the second that Karen complains, they drop Millie like a hot rock. We take client concerns very seriously. They treat human beings like inventory. It's a no-return policy. If the designer chair arrives scratched, you send it back. If the temp is unenthusiastic, you send her back. There is no duty of care to the human being, only to the client contract.
And the other major actor in Millie's life is Sarah, her friend. I'm using the word friend pretty loosely there.
Sarah functions as the mirror. She's also trapped in a dead-end job. She's also deeply unhappy. And you would think this would create solidarity. You'd think they'd band together against the world, us against the system.
But they absolutely do not. They just get drunk and bicker and seem to resent each other.
There's this one scene that's just so visceral and uncomfortable. They get drunk, and Millie physically presses her armpit onto Sarah's face.
It's such a bizarre, aggressive moment. I had to read it twice to make sure I understood what was happening.
It is, but it's a perfect illustration of the complete breakdown of social norms. The constant pressure of the system degrades their ability to be kind to each other. They're so exhausted, so resentful of their own lives that they can't offer each other comfort. All they have left to offer is mutual disgust.
Like crabs in a bucket.
Exactly. Pulling each other down because they don't have the energy left to try and lift each other up. In that moment, Millie wants to make Sarah smell her stink. She wants to force her to acknowledge the rot that they're both living in.
So this creates what you're calling the feedback loop of shame.
Right. It starts with instability. That instability leads to anxiety. The anxiety leads to weird behavior like the armpit thing, or not showering enough, or being too quiet at work. That weird behavior then leads to social alienation. The alienation leads to being fired. And being fired, of course, leads to more instability. The loop closes.
And the feedback Millie gets when she's let go from the showroom, it's never concrete. She's never told, you messed up this spreadsheet or you transferred a call incorrectly.
Never. She's told she has an attitude problem. She's unkempt. She's not a good fit. This vague, subjective criteria is a feature, not a bug. It allows institutions to filter out anyone who displays the psychological symptoms of poverty or precarity. If you look poor or if you act depressed because you are poor, you get fired, which of course makes you poorer and more depressed. It's a perfect, closed system.
I really want to pivot now to the present-day implications. Because while this book is a work of fiction, it feels like a documentary of the modern office for so many people. We really are seeing the jigification of everything.
Absolutely. The temp-to-perm promise is the ultimate carrot on a stick in the modern economy. It's a disciplinary tool. The unspoken message is, if you are just good enough, just compliant enough, for long enough, maybe we will grace you with health insurance and job security.
And because that reward is theoretically possible, even if it's rare, The worker blames themselves when they don't get it.
Of course. They don't blame the employer who never really intended to offer it in the first place. They think, I should have been peppier. I should have shredded that flyer faster.
And then there's a demand for emotional labor. We have to talk about the call center job. This is what Millie gets after the showroom, a job cold calling people to sell subscriptions to the ballet.
This scene is harrowing. This is where the book really shifts from quiet psychological pressure to something much more overt. It becomes about physical violation.
It really is physical violence. Her supervisor is hovering over her, demanding she smile because, quote, the customer can hear it in your voice.
Which is already an absurd demand.
It is. And when Millie is struggling to hear what the client on the phone is saying because the supervisor is literally yelling instructions in her other ear, the supervisor walks up behind her and pulls her hair, physically yanks her head back.
It's a genuinely shocking moment in what is, up to that point, a fairly quiet internal book. But it reveals the raw truth of so much precarious, low-wage work. The worker owns neither their time nor their body. The demand is for total emotional submission. The supervisor actually says to her, no is not in your vocabulary.
Which is one of the most terrifying things you can say to a human being.
Yeah.
No is not in your vocabulary.
It is. It erases consent entirely. It reduces the worker to a mechanism for generating sales. In that moment, Millie isn't a person. She is a mouthpiece that must smile on command. And when her body flinches, when she tries to protect her ear from being yelled into, she is physically punished.
It connects right back to the showroom.
It's the same system, just with the politeness stripped away. In the showroom, the violence was psychological. It was exclusion, silence, humiliation. In the call center, it becomes physical. But the root is exactly the same. You are here to serve the system, and your comfort, your agency, your body, they are all irrelevant.
And this all loops back to the corporate wellness aspect. The whole book is just saturated with this self-optimization culture. Millie trying to oil herself, buying the aspirational groceries.
It's a brilliant distraction technique, systemically speaking. Society tells the precarious worker that their lack of security is a failure of mindset. If you just manifested better, you'd have the job. If you just oiled your eyebrows correctly, you'd be a manager.
And that's so dangerous because it diverts all of your energy away from questioning the economic structure itself.
Precisely. If Millie is spending all of her limited energy and money trying to fix her dry skin or organize her pantry, she has no energy left to ask why her job doesn't pay a living wage or offer any security.
It's the new me trap again. The new me is just a better, more compliant employee, not a better person.
That's it. The new me is compliant. The new me doesn't have a funny smell. The new me doesn't question the shredding. The new me shreds the pizza flyer with a genuine customer service smile.
I want to connect this directly back to our channel's central theme, this crisis in perception. The crisis here seems to be about where the blame is assigned.
That's the absolute crux of it. Millie spends the entire book hating herself. She calls herself a criminal, a reject, a toad. She perceives all of her suffering as a personal, moral failing. Her internal logic is, I am bad, therefore I suffer.
But when we look at the system map we've been building, we see that she's actually just a product of her circumstances. She's stuck.
She's a depreciating asset in a labor market that has an oversupply of workers. That's how the system sees her. It sees her as a cog, and when that cog gets a little rusty or, a little depressed, you just throw it out and get a shiny new intern from the supply closet.
So the crisis in perception is that Millie internalizes this cold mechanical process as a spiritual judgment on her soul.
Yes, and the listener needs to see that the system is functioning exactly as it was designed to. It is successfully churning through bodies to find the most compliant, cheapest ones. Millie isn't failing the system. The system is successfully extracting what it wants from the labor pool and discarding the rest.
There's also this idea of power hidden in what seem like neutral norms.
Mm-hmm.
The showroom is neutral.
Mm-hmm.
It's beige. It's quiet. It plays soft, pleasant music. It seems harmless. But real violence isn't acted there.
It's the violence of exclusion and humiliation. There's that scene where Millie is asked to take out all the office trash. She has to walk through the entire showroom past all the clients and the good employees carrying these big bags of garbage. It's a humiliation ritual.
She's being paraded as waste management.
Right before she is disposed of as waste herself.
Right.
The environment remains polite and beige, but the message is absolutely brutal. You are trash.
And the really scary part is, Millie knows all this on some level. She's smart. She's constantly analyzing her parents. She critiques the ugly furniture. She sees right through Sarah's fake friendship. She is aware of the dynamic.
But awareness does not restore agency. And that is such a key takeaway for our listeners. We often have this belief that if I can just understand the system, I can beat it.
Right.
Millie understands it. She's cynical. She is ironic. She makes fun of the whole system constantly inside her own head. But the system doesn't care if you're ironic. It only cares if you are profitable and compliant. Being aware that you are being exploited doesn't stop the exploitation.
So after all of this,
Yeah.
how does it end? The book has an epilogue titled simply Later.
And this is where the satire lands its hardest, most devastating punch. Years later, we find Millie, and she has a real job. She's a junior office manager.
She did it. She made it. She's stable. This is the happy ending she was striving for the entire time.
On paper, yes, it looks like success. She wears comfortable shoes. She's polite to her coworkers. She does the paperwork efficiently. She is helpful.
Wow.
But the way the text describes her, she has been essentially lobotomized. The criminal heart, as she once called it. Her spark, her anger, her critical mind, her individuality, it's all gone.
She has become exactly like the women in the showroom she once despised.
She has. She has successfully optimized herself into a non-entity. She is safe, but she is hollow, and that's the real tragedy. The tragedy isn't that she failed to get a job. The tragedy is that she succeeded, and the price of that success was killing off every part of herself that was messy and human and alive.
That is a terrifying definition of success.
It suggests that in this specific economic system, survival requires a kind of spiritual suicide. You have to numb yourself to the absurdity of shredding the pizza flyer. You have to stop wanting to scream. You have to become the beige furniture. You have to become the chrome, table shiny, functional, and completely dead inside.
So what does this mean for us, for the listener driving to work right now, or maybe listening to this while answering emails?
I think it raises a really provocative question. When we strive for stability in this system, what parts of ourselves are we being asked to prune away to fit? Is the new me, that optimized, productive, waking up at 5 a.m. version of yourself, actually a better human being? Or is it just a better product that's easier for an employer to consume?
Are you building a life, or are you just building a better resume?
Exactly. Millie found stability, but she lost Millie in the process.
That is a heavy thought to leave you with, but well, that's why we do this. We need to see the water we're all swimming in. This deep dive was based on the book The New Me by Halle Butler. It is a brutal, funny, and absolutely necessary read. Please go get it from your local library or independent bookstore. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind crisis and perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a shorter visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description. If you enjoyed this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.
See you next time.